The stars sat quiet in the sky. Nothing moved. Nothing spoke. Space was still, cold, and endless. The listening station on the edge of the Karthus sector floated alone near a dying red star. It was a forgotten post, manned by a single officer, Commander Thalvox. His job was simple: watch the outer edges of Empire's space for any signs of movement. For 10 years, nothing had ever come. Thal leaned back in his chair, sipping bitter-stemmed tea. His eyes were half closed, half awake. The only sound was the soft hum of the station's life support. The scanners beeped in a slow rhythm, always the same. Nothing changed until it did. A sharp, high-pitched tone shattered the silence. A red light blinked across the console. The scanner had picked up a ripple. Something had bent space. Thal blinked, sitting forward. "False alarm," he muttered. But it wasn't. The screen flared again. Another ripple, then another, and another. Thal's heart skipped. What is this? He typed commands. The system responded slower than he liked. Then came the alert. Spatial breach detected. Unknown origin. 10 signatures. 10. Couldn't be right. He stared, watching the display update in real time. 10 ships, massive in scale, were tearing through a wormhole just outside the outer rim. Thal opened. Comes to Central Command. Static. He tried again. Still static. Something was jamming the signal. The station lights flickered. Power dipped. The scanner went dark for 3 seconds, then came back with a loud buzz. What appeared next on the screen made his blood freeze. A fleet. 10 warships, black as void, sharp-edged, glowing faint blue along their hulls. Each one at least twice the size of an Empire dreadnought. Thal whispered to himself. No identification, no transponders, no records. He leaned forward, voice shaking, and tapped into the local recording feed. This is listening post K-17. Unknown fleet has entered Empire space. Warships. Huge. Possibly human design. He stopped mid-sentence. The largest ship began transmitting, not in code, not in Empire language, an old Earth standard. The message was simple. We are the sons and daughters of Earth. We have returned. We remember everything. Prepare for judgment. Thal stood frozen. Earth. That was impossible. Earth was gone. 300 years ago, the Empire had wiped them out. At least that was the story. His breath caught in his throat. No. They're supposed to be extinct. Then the main screen lit up with video. It showed the fleet now moving fast, positioning, blocking travel routes. One of the ships turned, slowly toward the listening station, Thal's station. Suddenly, the lights cut off. Emergency power switched on. Thal grabbed his come again. This is K-17, requesting backup. We're under direct threat. Nothing. A low vibration ran through the floor. He looked out the small window and saw it. The lead warship moved silently toward him. No flashing lights, no sound. Just the cold, steady drift of something ancient and angry. Its surface looked like metal and stone fused together. Symbols lined its hull, not imperial. Something older. A human, yes, but changed by time and war. Thal stumbled back. A deep hum started to build in the air. The station shook. He looked up at the ceiling as dust fell from the vents. This can't be happening. The ship didn't fire. Not yet. Instead, it released a small probe, which floated straight toward the station. It passed through the shields like they weren't there, came to a stop in front of the observation window, then projected an image. Woman's face appeared scarred, proud, eyes like steel. I am Captain Mara Vex of the Sovereign Human Fleet. We are not here to talk. We are here to finish what your empire began, Thal whispered. Mara Vex. That name hadn't been heard in over 100 years, she continued, voice calm. The Empire lied to you, about Earth, about what happened. We didn't die. We rebuilt. We waited. Now we've returned. The image vanished. The probe pulled away. Thal fell into his chair. Trembling, then came the light. A single warning shot from the human ship passed over the station, not to destroy it, but to prove a point. It cut a clean line through a nearby lind. Asteroid slicing it in half like it was paper, the power in the station went fully dead. Only emergency lights glowed now, soft red and cold. Thal sat in the dark. Staring at the stars outside, he knew what would happen next. This was just the beginning. Aboard the human command ship, the Revenant, Captain Mara Vex, stood on the bridge, arms crossed. Her crew worked silently, disciplined, focused. Screens displayed Empire outposts, travel lanes, planetary systems. Phase 1 is complete, her first officer said. Mara nodded. Did they get the message? Yes, Captain. The listening station transmitted part of the broadcast before it went dark. Mara allowed herself a slight smile. Good. Let them wonder. Let them fear. Her smile faded as she looked out the massive viewing window beyond. More human ships emerged from hyperspace, growing the fleet, dozens, then hundreds. This wasn't just a mission, it was revenge. Far away in the Imperial capital, Chancellor Varen paced across the high chamber floor. Advisors scrambled to decipher the incoming messages. The listening station's report had reached them in fragments. Unknown fleet, ... old Earth language, ... human warships, ... impossible, Baron shouted. Earth was destroyed, he saw. It burn. A technician looked up from his screen, pale and shaking. Sir, I've enhanced the broadcast. It's authentic. Old Earth speech patterns. Signal confirms long-range jump signatures. And the name Mara Vex appears multiple times. Another advisor gasped. That's a ghost. No, Varen said slowly, turning to face the center of the chamber. That's a mistake we failed to erase. He stared at the flickering map of Empire territory. Red dots appeared across the outer rim. More. Human ships, fast, organized, deadly. Varen clenched his fist, then let it be war. Back on the Revenant, Mara walked the halls alone. She passed rows of sleeping pods, some still dark. Names etched on the walls, memorials to Earth's fall. Friends lost, family erased. Cities turned to ash. She paused at one plaque. Her brother's name killed in the last days of Earth. Her fingers brushed the cold metal. We never forgot. She turned back toward the command bridge. Double quotes now. They won't either. As she entered, the alarm sounded. Another signal from the Empire. This time, a fleet approaching. Small, uncoordinated. Probably scouts. The crew stood ready. Captain, said her officer. Engagement. Mara stared at the screen. Destroy them. Human fleet moved like a machine. Silent, ruthless. Within seconds, the Empire scouts were gone. No survivors. No transmissions. Just silence again. But this silence was different. This silence meant fear. It meant something bigger had awakened in the dark, and it would not stop. The stars were calm, but the galaxy was not. Every major system in the Galactic Empire was now on high alert. Warnings echoed through every sector. Civilian broadcasts were interrupted. The words repeated again and again. Human fleet sighted. All commands report. Secure your skies. But no one really understood what was happening. How could they? Humanity was a myth, dead world, a name in old war songs and forgotten books. For 300 years, Earth had been spoken of only as a warning, an example of what happened to those who defied the Empire. Now that myth had returned. With guns, aboard the Imperial War Archive, deep under the Central Palace on Varney's Prime, historian Cale Dren stared at old digital scrolls. His fingers shook. He hadn't slept in 2 days. This can't be real, he said under his breath. He zoomed in on one faded recording, black and white footage from the final days of the human war. Earth's skies had burned. Human war cries had echoed in old languages. Ships fell like flaming stars. And then, silence. That silence had lasted for centuries. Now it was broken. Cale stood up fast, knocking over a cup of ink. He didn't care. It ran through the archive. Hallway past blinking terminals and silent statues. He burst into the central war room where military minds and leaders of data stood gathered. "You need to hear this," he said, breathless. Chancellor Varen stood at the center table, arms crossed. "We've already heard it, historian," No Kale said, shaking his head. "You've seen what they are now. I'm telling you what they were then, and why they came back." He pressed a button. A hollow voice echoed from the speakers. Transmission recovered from the edge of the Vila's dust ring. Year 1221 post-ascension. Last message from Earth Colony Station 97. They've come. We held them off as long as we could. The Empire offered peace, and then glassed us from orbit. We should have left Earth sooner.
Ow.
Tell our children not to forget. Room went silent. Kale looked around. You buried. What happened? You erased it, but humans, you didn't forget. They remembered everything. Every burned city. Every child taken. Every betrayal. You thought you wiped out a species. What you did was light a fuse. Varen stared at the screen, jaw tight. Then tell me what they want. Kale's voice was quiet now. They want the Empire to burn. Far across the stars, in deep space, beyond the Cryon fields, the human sovereign fleet moved like shadows. Aboard the Revenant, Captain Mara Vex stood on the observation deck, watching light curve as her ships flew at high speed. Below her, engineers monitored systems. Gunners ran drills. Drones scanned far ahead. But Mara's eyes stayed on the stars. "Status?" she asked. Her first officer, Juno Kale, no relation to the historian, stepped forward. 5 Empire colonies detected within range. No major fleets yet, but outposts are broadcasting panic signals. Civilians are fleeing the outer systems. Mara nodded. "Let them run. The Empire didn't offer mercy to our civilians. We won't offer it to theirs." Juno hesitated. "And what of their soldiers?" Mara turned. "If they lower their weapons, they live. If not, ... you know the answer." Juno gave a short nod. "Understood." Just then, a signal pinged across the deck, a direct link from the Sovereign Core. The AI that powered the entire human fleet. Its voice came over the speakers, smooth, cold, and endless. "Captain Vex, you are advised to proceed to Echo Site. Theta. Ancient data signals from Earth's final transmission point have been found. Possible strategic value. Priority 1. Mara blinked. Earth's final signal. It had been lost for centuries. "Change course," she said. "We're going home." The ship dropped out of hyperspace above a dead system. A cold white star barely burned in the distance. One planet remained in orbit, black, broken, silent. This was Echo Site Theta, where Earth's last fleet had supposedly made its final stand as the Revenant approached. Ants debris floated by old ships, human in design. Some still bore scorch marks. Many had names engraved in forgotten languages. A drone scanned the planet's surface. "No life signs," Juno said. But ... wait, there's a structure. Deep underground. Still active. "Prep a landing team," Mara ordered. "I'm going down." The surface was rough and dead. Dust covered everything. Mara moved through it in her armored suit, her boots. Crunching on the cracked stone, her team followed close behind. The entrance to the old human vault was buried, but not sealed. A heavy door stood half open, light flickering inside. They stepped in. Inside were rows of old terminals, long dead. But one was glowing, dim blue light pulsing slowly. Like a heartbeat, Mara approached. As she touched it, the room came to life. Screens flashed, and then a face appeared. Her father, not alive. Just a recording, but his voice was clear. "Two! My daughter, ... If you are hearing this, then you survived. Then we all did. Somehow I always believed in you. If the Empire still exists, then know this. We tried everything. Peace, war, begging. Nothing worked. That's why we built the Sovereign Core, not just to protect us, but to outlive us. It remembers what we've lost. It remembers you. And now, it remembers what must be done." The screen went dark. Mara stood silent. For a moment, Even her breath caught in her chest. The others waited. "Let's go," she finally said. Back in space, a small Imperial scout fleet had tracked the human. Signal. 7 ships dropped out of hyperspace just outside the dead planet's orbit. Unidentified ships respond at once, barked the Imperial commander. "You are violating Empire space." No response. Then came the human fleet. 30 ships decloaked. They had been waiting. The Imperial commander tried to retreat. Too late. Within seconds, the human warships fired in perfect sync. Missiles, pulse beams, silent, blinding lights. The Empire. Ships exploded one by one. No mercy. No survivors. The last ship tried to surrender. Mara gave the order anyway. Erase it. Later, back aboard the Revenant, Mara stared at the recovered message from her father again. His face, his voice. Memory, still alive after so long. She didn't cry. She never cried. Instead, she turned to the bridge, broadcast to the Empire, Juno. Blinked. What message? Mara's eyes narrowed. "Tell them this. Earth remembers." At that very moment, across the galaxy, in the core worlds of the Empire, screens flickered. Every channel, every station, every private network, a single face appeared. Captain Mara Vex. And behind her, the warships of Earth. Her voice came across like thunder. "You thought you erased us. You were wrong. You called us rebels, but you were the tyrants. You said, Earth fell, but Earth was never gone. We remember, and we are coming." Millions watched in silence. Soldiers lowered their weapons. Civilians whispered the old stories for the first time in centuries. They believed them, not stories, not myths. Humans were real, and they were angry. Smoke curled above the skyline of Valor Prime, the Empire's largest trade world. Usually it was calm, a perfect city of silver towers, glowing roads, and skyships drifting peacefully. But now, chaos had started to grow. Crowds moved fast. Through the streets, voices rising, questions spreading like fire. Is it true? Earth was never destroyed? Why are they back? What else did the Empire hide from us? Nobody had answers. In the halls of the Imperial Information, Corps Commander Vela Estiaran watched the data flood in. Screens flashed with images of human ships, footage of battles, and worst of all, recordings of Captain Mara Vex's. Broadcast her message had reached every world in the Empire, and it had broken the silence. "Shut it down," Vela ordered. "Delete all references. Block access. Purge the signal." The technicians hesitated. "Commander, it's too late." They downloaded everything. "Citizens are copying it, spreading it. Even internal systems have been breached." She turned sharply. "What do you mean breached?" One of the screens glitched, then turned completely black. A single sentence appeared in Old Earth Standard. "The Empire lied. The truth lives." Everyone in the room froze. The signal came from inside their own system. Meanwhile, far from the Empire's core, in a forgotten region known as the Asterverge, the human sovereign fleet gathered at a mobile command station. The Revenant hovered in silence as dozens of ships rearmed and resupplied. Inside, Captain Mara Vex studied a stolen data core. The encryption was tough, Empire-level security, but humans had learned patience in the dark. Her engineer, Rezatal, worked on the console. "This is it. We pulled this from a destroyed Empire archive outpost. Some of it's corrupted, but there's enough to see the truth." He loaded the decrypted files onto the holoscreen. Mara stared. The images showed classified. Orders from 300 years ago, the moment Earth had been targeted. Not for rebellion, not for war, but for resources. "They needed our planet's core minerals," Reza said. The Empire's own supply lines were collapsing. Earth refused to give more. So they made up lies about rebellion and bombed our cities into ash. He pulled up one more file. It was worse. Mara narrowed her eyes. This isn't just war. It was genocide. They erased records, destroyed escape routes, hunted survivors. She looked around the room. We were never the threat. At that same moment, on Varney's Prime, historian Cale Dren stood in front of a classroom. He was no longer hiding behind him. A wall-sized screen showed documents, video clips, and audio recovered by the human fleet and leaked by rebel insiders. This was Earth, Cale said. Not a savage world. A place of science, beauty, and strength. The Empire destroyed it not because it was dangerous, but because it stood up to them. Students watched, wide-eyed. The truth is dangerous, Cale continued. But truth also brings change. And now, change is here. Suddenly, alarms blared. A squad of Imperial enforcement officers entered the room, by order of the High Command. One shouted, "This content is illegal. You are under arrest." Cale raised his hands. "I told the truth. That's all I did." Was taken. But not before students grabbed their tablets, copied the files, and sent them to 100 other systems. Back aboard the Revenant, Mara Vex met with her officers. The room was dim, quiet, filled with tension. She spoke softly, but with fire in her voice. "They tried to bury us. They failed. Now we bury their lies." The crew responded with nods, some with tears in their eyes. Most had lost family, entire bloodlines to the Empire's war. Mara turned to Juno. "Prep a broadcast. This time, we send the files. The proof. To every citizen, every colony, every outpost. Let the Empire try to explain what they did." Understood. Moments later, a massive data burst shot across the galaxy. Encrypted, compressed, undeniable. It included the Empire's original orders to destroy Earth, footage of Empire generals lying to the people, images of Earth cities before the attack. Peaceful, advanced, full of life within hours. Systems began to crack. On Talva Station, a group of Empire officers refused to carry out a lockdown order. Instead, they joined with rebel civilians to protect information servers. On Nerith 9. A governor resigned on live broadcast, tears in his eyes, saying, "We believed a lie." And on Aeron Deep, the local fleet commander lowered his shields and transmitted directly to the human fleet, "We see you, believe you. What now?" In the Emperor's dark chamber, high above Varney's Prime, Chancellor Varen stood still. He watched the galaxy turn against him, piece by piece. An aide entered. Quickly, "Sir, there's more. 2 of our outer colonies have raised human flags. Not full surrender, but open defiance." Varen's voice was cold. "Then we burn them." "But civilians," I said. "Burn them." Aide backed away, frightened. Varen stared at the stars, whispering, "If Earth won't stay dead, then we'll kill it again." At that same moment, in the fleet command center of the Revenant, Mara Vex saw the incoming message from Aeron Deep, the one that said, "What now?" She sat down, quiet for a long moment, then answered with 3 words, "Stand with us." Ain't from. That day forward, the galaxy was no longer split between the Empire and the Silence. Now, it was divided between those who remembered the lie and those who refused to believe it. But one thing was now certain. The Empire was losing control, and the fire started by Earth was spreading. The silence didn't last. It never does before a war. In the cold space above Astrax 3, a quiet mining colony near the edge of Empire control, 6 Imperial warships hovered, scanning for signs of human activity. Their orders were simple: intercept and destroy any ship marked with the Earth signature. They were not prepared for what came. Next, suspenseful opening, first 5 minutes. Inside the bridge of the Imperial battleship Vortex, Commander Rielvas sat with narrowed eyes. His crew worked quietly, afraid to speak. Tension hung in the air like a knife. "Any contact?" Voss asked. "Nothing yet, sir," the sensor officer replied. "Still scanning, then keep looking. They're out there somewhere." Voss stood slowly and walked to the observation glass. Beyond it, the stars drifted silently, empty, peaceful, but something felt wrong. Suddenly the lights dimmed, screens blinked, alarms chirped once, then cut. "What is that?" Voss snapped. "Unknown interference, Commander." "It's jamming." Our sensors. Its weight, the screen lit up with a single message, pulsing red. You wanted us. We're here. And then they arrived. The human warships decloaked. 12 of them. Twice the size of the Imperial vessels. Black steel, glowing blue engines. Armored like nothing the Empire had seen in centuries, Commander Voss stepped back. No. ... double quotes. A second message followed. This is Captain Mara Vex. Lower your shields, or be destroyed. Aboard the Revenant, Mara Vex watched the enemy fleet hang in silence. They hadn't moved, hadn't responded. She waited. 5 seconds. 10. Nothing. Juno. Kale turned to her. Still no reply. Mara spoke calmly. Lock weapons. No more warnings. Back on the vortex, chaos had begun. They're powering weapons. Shields up. Get us out of here. Too late. And then the sky erupted. The first blast came from the Revenant's forward rail cannon, firing a kinetic slug at near light speed. It ripped through the side of an Imperial destroyer, breaking it in half with one silent explosion. Missiles flew from the other human ships. Small, fast, and smart, they danced between the Empire's slower defenses and struck with brutal accuracy. 3 more Empire ships exploded in less than a minute. On the vortex, Voss screamed, "Return fire! Target their lead ship." The Empire's cannons roared, plasma beams cutting through the dark. They hit nothing. Human ships darted around them like predators. Shields absorbed the damage, and then more human firepower followed. One Imperial cruiser attempted to retreat. A smaller human frigate chased it down and sliced it in two with a focused beam from its underbelly in space. No one here screaming, but inside the ships the panic was real. One officer on the vortex tried to call. "Central Command?" "No response, sir. Com channels are blocked. We're completely cut off." Voss stared at the screen. He finally saw what the Empire had tried to hide for centuries. The humans weren't just alive. They were smarter, faster, deadlier, and very, very angry. On the Revenant's bridge, Mara gave her final order. Finish it. The last 2 Imperial ships were destroyed in perfect sync. No survivors. When the battle ended, only human ships remained in orbit. Fires burned across the wreckage. The stars were quiet again. But that silence had changed. It no longer meant peace. It meant fear. Later that day, Mara sat in the private chamber of the Revenant, watching old footage on a cracked screen, images of Earth before the Empire came. Forests, cities, children, laughing, all gone. Juno entered quietly. "It's done, Mara." Didn't answer at first. Then, "Any escape pods?" "None launched. They fought to the end." Mara closed the screen. "They were never the real enemy. It's just men and women following orders, just like we used to." Juno nodded. "But the ones who gave those orders are still out there." Mara stood, her voice cold. "Then we'll find them." Meanwhile, the Empire spun the story. Across public channels, they called it a terrorist attack. They said pirates had stolen ancient Earth ships. They blamed radical rebels for the loss of 6 brave Imperial vessels. But the people had already seen the truth. The real footage was everywhere. Leaked videos showed the battle in full. Human precision. Empire failure. No one could explain the technology, the tactics, the speed. They weren't pirates. They were Earth's vengeance made real. In the lower levels of a colony on Nimmer 5, a group of engineers sat in the dark watching the footage again. One of them whispered, "They wiped us out, ... and lied." Another replied, "Then maybe it's time we stop listening." They painted the old Earth symbol on a wall, faded blue planet wrapped in a ring of fire. A new rebellion had begun, not one of bombs and marches, but of belief, back on Varney's prime. Chancellor Varen was furious. "They embarrassed us. In open space? On our own territory?" His general said nothing. One finally spoke, "Sir. ... They're not just raiders. This is a military force, trained, armed, intelligent." Varen slammed his fist down. "Then we erase them. We find their command ship, and we send a full fleet. A moment of silence passed. But sir, one general said, what if they have more? Varen stared into the stars. Then we build more.
Bear you.
But building ships takes time. Loyalty. That's harder. Already Empire soldiers were talking in whispers. If Earth had survived, if the Empire lied, if humans were this powerful now, ... what else had the Empire hidden? What other lies had been told? Captain Mara Vex knew this. She didn't just want war. She wanted to unravel the Empire from within. And it had started with a single battle, a single message, and the end of silence. The planet Alindra 7 had always been beautiful. Wide rivers, gold deserts, silver-leafed trees that sparkled in daylight. The Empire called it a model colony. 10 million people lived there. Perfect world, peaceful, rich, clean, until the sky broke open. Suspense hook, first 5 minutes. It started with a single sound, a deep, low hum that echoed through the clouds. Birds scattered. Power lines shook. Children looked up from squelds. Then came the light's 12 dark shapes, moving above the atmosphere. Silent, massive. Wrong. The citizens of Alindra 7 stared at the sky. The emergency sirens didn't even get the chance to activate. They never expected the enemy to come here, because the Empire, it said humanity was extinct, but they weren't extinct. They were angry, and they were here, aboard the human command ship Revenant. Captain Mara Vex watched the green and gold world below on the main screen. It looked peaceful, quiet. She remembered when Earth had looked like that before the Empire burned it. Juno Kale stood beside her. This world supplies over 40% of the Empire's fuel cores. Strategic target. The strike will cripple them. Mara nodded. Civilian population? Hi, mostly workers, families, support staff. Mara stayed silent. Orders, Captain. Her jaw tightened. Give them one warning. At the Alindra 7 command center, Governor Talonvor slammed his hand on the console. This is insane, shouted. Human ships. Some kind of trick! The officer next to him pointed at the screen. Sir, we're receiving a message. Play it. The room fell quiet, Mara. Vex's face appeared, calm, strong. To the leadership of Alindra 7, you stand on stolen ground. Your peace was built on our ashes. You have 1 hour. Evacuate your people. Military forces must stay behind. Fuse, and we erase you. This is your only warning. The screen went black. Governor Vor stared at it. Evacuate. We don't have the ships. We don't have the time. He turned to his generals. We fight. Up above, the countdown began. Human ships moved into formation, not in chaos, but with perfect timing. Like a machine, each vessel locked onto a strategic target, power plants, military bases, fuel lines, communications, hubs. No civilian zones were marked yet. Yet Juno turned to Mara again. Half the population is still down there. They're not moving. Mara didn't blink. Then they've chosen the Empire's side. Even the children. She paused. Then no child asked for this war. Target military zones only. But if the Empire uses civilians as shields, we fire anyway. Below, Empire tanks rolled through the streets. Troopers lined rooftops. Fighters launched from underground bases. People were told to stay inside. The Empire would protect them. It was a lie. The first strike came at minute 40-3. A sonic blast from orbit shattered the defense grid. Then a focused kinetic strike hit a key reactor, causing a chain reaction. Flames shot into the sky. Second city went dark. Empire troops fired missiles into the clouds. Hitting nothing, human ships danced through the air, dodging every blast. From space, Alindra 7 looked like it was bleeding, aboard the Revenant. Mara watched the feeds. Casualty. Reports. Military. Heavy. Civilian. Light so far, but increasing. Estimated surrender time? Unknown. The governor refuses contact. Most signals are jammed. Mara stepped forward. She pressed a button. This is Captain Vex. Elindra 7 has failed to evacuate. Empire forces are hiding behind their citizens. We do not stop. We do not forgive. Begin full orbital bombardment, precision only. Her voice echoed across the fleet. The warships responded like thunder. The skies turned red. Massive plasma beams cut across the atmosphere, striking exact locations with inhuman accuracy. Explosions bloomed like flowers. Shockwaves raced across. Deserts, military bases vanished. The Empire's command center went silent, and finally, the governor's tower was vaporized by a single focused beam. No noise. No screaming, just fire. From the ground, people watched as half their city turned to ash. Many still didn't understand what was happening. Some ran, some prayed, some cheered. One family climbed to the roof and waved an old human banner of blue, planted on a white flag. No one knew where they got it. The human fleet saw it and spared that building. On the far edge of the planet, a small group of Imperial medics refused orders. They opened the evacuation bays and started loading civilians. An old cargo freighter lifted off, full of frightened children, elders, and wounded workers. The Empire had abandoned them. The humans let the ship go. Hours later, the sky grew quiet. Again, Elindra 7 was still spinning, still alive but broken. The core structures that powered the planet's purpose were gone. Smoke covered half the surface. Communications were dark. It was no longer an Empire world. It was a message. Back aboard the Revenant, Vex sat alone in her command chair. No. One spoke. She looked out the window, toward the burning world below. Juno approached. Tactical success. We've achieved total planetary shutdown. Empire fuel lines will collapse in weeks. And the people? Mara asked. Survivors? About 6 million. Rough estimates. Some fled, some hid. Most are without power or protection. Our side. We gave them a choice. Far across the galaxy, Chancellor Varen watched the aftermath on a secure feed. He stared at the destruction, silent still, unmoving. Behind him, advisors argued, this was a terrorist act. This proves they're monsters. No, this proves they can hit us anywhere. He turned slowly. They're not terrorists, Varen said. They're the future, and if we don't stop them now, he didn't finish the sentence, because deep down he knew it might already be too late. In the outer colonies, whispers grew louder. If they can burn Elindra, they can burn Varnies. If the Empire lied about Earth, what else did they lie about? Humanity returned once. Who else is out there? In a quiet bar on a small trade moon, an old man raised a glass. To Earth, he said. People looked around nervously. No one stopped him. They just raised their own glasses too. Above it all, Vex gave her final order of the day. Send the footage to every colony, every station, every world. Let them see what we did. Let them understand. The Empire doesn't protect them. She paused. We do. The screen blinked to black, but the message was clear. This was not the last burning. Only the first. The galaxy had changed every broadcast, every conversation. Every ship whispering through hyperspace, they all spoke the same name, Earth, after the fall of Elindra 7. Fear spread across the stars. But so did something else call in doubt. People were beginning to question the Empire, and even worse, some were starting to listen to the humans. Opening suspense hook, first 5 minutes. Aboard the Empire flagship Seraphon, Admiral Lysa Rain stood in silence. She had just watched the footage from Elindra 7, cities in flames. Military bases turned to ash. Civilians caught in the crossfire. She had served the Empire. For 30 years, she had always followed orders, but something in her chest twisted. Her officers sat around her, waiting for orders. Should we engage the enemy if they appear, Admiral? One of them asked. Lysa didn't answer right away. She looked at the stars outside the glass, wide, open, and full of secrets. They said they offered a warning, she finally said. Another officer frowned. It was a trick. Lisa cut him off. That was strategy. That was precision. They hit only what mattered. They told the truth. She paused again. What if we're the ones repeating the lie? The room went still. No one dared respond, but they all felt it. Something was breaking. On the outer colony. World Velnary 2 riots had begun. Protesters filled the streets, shouting, "The Empire lied. Earth lives." Remember? Police fired stun gas, but it wasn't enough. Some officers took off their helmets and joined the crowd in a hidden bunker near the mountains. A group of rebels huddled around a comm device. They had made contact. A voice crackled through. "This is Captain Mara Vex. You're not alone. Help is coming." They wept, not from fear but hope. Back on the Seraphon, Admiral Lisa Rain stared at her orders. They were clear. We're to move toward Sector Rauthus 4, intercept and destroy any human vessel, including transports. Civilians are considered secondary targets. No mercy, no delay. She clenched her fists. This wasn't defense. This was genocide. Again, she opened a private comm line. "Revenant, this is Seraphon, requesting direct communication with Captain Vex. Repeat, requesting direct communication." On the Revenant, Mara Vex stood over the command table when the message arrived. Juno Kale raised an eyebrow. "Empire flagship. They want to talk? Trace it. Encrypted. But real." Mara nodded, put her on. The screen flickered. Admiral Rain appeared pale, calm, and tense. "Captain Vex," she said. Admiral Mara replied. A long pause followed. "I was told to kill you," Rain said softly. "No warning, no questions. You wouldn't be the first to try." Rain took a breath. "I've read your files. I've seen the footage. I've studied your tactics. You're not a pirate. You're a soldier." Mara nodded. "And you're not a puppet. You wouldn't be calling me." Rain leaned closer. "I've served the Empire since I was 16. I believed in it. Order, peace, safety. But now?" Mara asked. Ronnie looked down. "I see fire. I see lies. And I see the same mistake we made with Earth being made again." Another pause. Then Rain whispered, "I want out." Inside the Revenant's war room, Mara's officers reacted with shock. "She's an admiral," Juno said. "Lying. She could get us killed." Mara shook her head. "She's not lying. She's bleeding. Why help her?" Mara stared at the map. "Because if the Empire is crumbling from the inside, we need to make sure it falls the right way." Later that night, in deep space between star systems, the Seraphon met with a smaller human ship under stealth protocol. Aboard it, Admiral Lisa Rain officially defected from the Empire. With her came tactical maps of Empire supply lines access, codes to secret shipyards, locations of hidden weapon caches, the names of other officers who might join her when, the news leaked days later, the galaxy broke again. Across Empire-controlled space, ships began to go dark. Outposts lost contact with command centers. Entire patrols vanished, without a fight. Because they'd switched sides, quietly the High Command panicked. On Varney's Prime, Chancellor Varen smashed a glass table. "She was one of ours." He turned to his spy commander. "Find the traitors. Burn the rest." "Yes, sir," but it was already too late. In orbit above the mining world, Selner 3, 2 Empire ships faced each other in silence. Then one turned and fired on the other. The crew aboard the winning ship cheered not because of the kill, but because they had made their choice. Back aboard the Revenant, Admiral Rain stood at the edge of the observation deck, watching stars roll by. Mara. Vex joined her. "You lost everything," Mara said quietly. "No," Rain replied. "I found the truth. It's more than I ever had in the Empire." Mara nodded. "Then help us finish this." Rain looked her in the eye. "I will." Back on Empire worlds, the leadership tried to spin it. Traitor, brainwashed, lies from an extinct people. But people weren't listening anymore, because Earth's voice was growing louder, and their ships were growing closer. On hundreds of worlds, The Empire cracked from the inside, not because of battle, but because of belief. And in that silence between orders and obedience, hope returned. The humans had not just come to destroy the Empire, they had come to turn its people against it, and it was working. The stars were silent, but inside a cold, abandoned moon near the edge of known space, something was waking up. For centuries, it had been buried, untouched, forgotten, locked behind codes no one could break until now. Opening suspense hook first. 5 minutes. Captain Maravex stood at the edge of a dark chamber deep beneath the moon's surface. The walls around her were carved with ancient symbols. Dust floated in the still air. Lights flickered on for the first time in 200 years. A long, black hallway stretched ahead, smooth, clean, and too perfect to be natural. Behind her, Juno Kale scanned a small device. This place is giving off a low-band pulse. Same pattern. We found near the ruins of Earth. Mara didn't answer. Her eyes were fixed on a sealed door ahead, 10 meters tall, metal thick as warship armor. Symbols glowed faintly on its surface. Is this really it? Juno whispered. Mara stepped closer. The last project Earth built before it fell. She touched the door. The Titan Protocol. 2 weeks earlier, Admiral Isarain had delivered the coordinates taken from a forgotten Empire vault. A place she had once been told never to ask about. A place the Empire feared now. The humans had found it. Inside the chamber, a soft voice echoed from hidden speakers. Welcome, Maravex. Identity confirmed. You carry Earth's blood. The Titan Protocol is now active. The sealed door opened. Inside, lights ignited one by one, revealing a massive underground hangar miles wide, filled with strange machines. Glowing pods in a massive shape hidden under heavy armor plating. Juno stared. What is that? Mara took a step forward. A ship, she said softly. No, Juno whispered. That's not just a ship. That's a god. Later, inside, the control room holograms spun to life. Ancient data flowed across the screens. Blueprints, test logs, pilot records, failed weapon experiments. The Titan was not a warship. It was something more built during Earth's final days. When the Empire first attacked, a project so dangerous, even humanity feared it, but they built it anyway. Out of desperation, the Titan was a fully sentient, self-repairing, planet-cracking machine, designed to be the last resort, a single weapon to end any war. Except, it had never been used until now. Mara sat before the main console. The system scanned her. Genetic match, 97.8%. Pilot authority granted. The entire base shook. Lights flickered. Deep below, the Titan's heart began to hum, like a distant storm rising from beneath the ground. Juno grabbed a handrail. This thing, can it even be controlled? Mara didn't look away from the console. We're going to find out. Meanwhile, back in the Empire's High Command Center, alarms were sounding. Chancellor Veron stared at the new data coming in from remote probes. What is that energy signature? Enade stepped forward, pale and sweating. It matches only one known record, from the day Earth fell. Veron went silent. Then he whispered, they found it. Back on the moon, the Titan began to rise from its cradle. Massive arms folded out like wings. Its core glowed deep blue. Metal that pulsed like living skin stretched across its form. It didn't walk. It floated, soundless and terrible, from the stars. It looked like a second moon had awakened. Mara climbed into the command core. The moment her hands touched the interface, the Titan spoke. Pilot accepted. Earth's will detected. Target. Mara blinked. It was waiting for a target. Juno stepped forward. What if it's not just a weapon? What if it's alive? Doesn't matter, Mara said. We need it to end this war. She closed her eyes and whispered, set course for Varney's Prime. Now Varney's Prime, the heart of the Empire. Their capital world, untouched, protected by a fleet of 5,000 warships and defense grids across the entire system? No one had ever gotten close. No one had ever dared, until now. Across Empire space, panic began to spread. Rumors flooded comes. The humans have awoken something. A planet killer. Even the Empire is afraid. And at the center of it all, the Titan moved through the stars alone, silent and unstoppable. Inside the Empire war room, a general yelled across the room, "We must launch everything." Chancellor Varen raised a shaking hand. "No, not yet, sir," I said. "Not yet." His voice was quiet now. "If we launch everything and fail, there's nothing left to defend." The general hesitated. "Then what do we do?" Varen stared at the Titan on the main screen. And for the first time in years, he had no answer. In the outer colonies, the people watched the footage too, not with fear, but awe. Some knelt and prayed. Some whispered ancient Earth songs. Some simply looked up at the stars and waited, because something was coming. Something old, something powerful, something human. Back aboard the Titan, Mara sat in silence, watching the capital world come into view. Behind her, a small fleet of allied ships followed, defectors, rebels, exiles, but they all knew this battle would decide everything. Win, the Empire would break, lose, and Earth's return would end forever. Mara placed her hand on the control sphere. "Let's show them," she whispered, "what Earth became." When they tried to burn it, Titan's eyes glowed, its engines roared. The stars bent around its body, and the sky turned black. The stars above Varney's prime were no longer peaceful. They boiled with fear. The Titan had arrived. Opening. Look, first 5 minutes. The orbital defense grid around the Empire's capital was the most powerful in the galaxy. Thousands of automated turrets, mines, EMP fields. A fleet of 5,000 ships, fully armed, but none of it moved. Not yet, because they were waiting, watching, as the shape of the Titan appeared, black as the void. Massive as a moon, glowing with an unnatural blue fire, on the surface of Varney's prime. Billions looked to the sky. Some screamed, some prayed, and in the high command tower, Chancellor Varen watched the monitors, silent. "One ship," he muttered. "Just one." He turned to his generals. "Destroy it." In space, thousands of Empire ships lit up. Engines roared, cannons locked in, missiles launched, and the sky turned into hellfire. But the Titan didn't flinch. A shimmering blue barrier bloomed around it. The blasts hit and vanished. Then the Titan's core pulsed once. A wave of invisible energy rolled out, and the front line of enemy ships went dead. Not exploded, not broken, just silenced. Systems offline. Crews unconscious. Gravity reversed. One by one, the ships drifted powerless. Inside the Titan, Mara Vex stood at the command core. Juno Kale watched beside her. "They just threw their entire fleet at us." Mara didn't blink, and they'll throw more. The console pulsed again. "Next target," the Titan asked. Mara paused. She stared at the surface of Varney's prime. "Not the people," she whispered. "Only the tower." "Confirmed," the voice replied. Down below, in the high command tower, alarms screamed. Advisors begged Varen to flee. "We have ships ready, sir. You can escape to the inner systems." He shook his head. "No." He stepped to the window. "If we lose this world, there's nowhere left to run." Above, the Titan's arm unfolded. Energy gathered at the end of its massive cannon, the power of a sun. Locked into a single focused beam, Mara gave the order. "Fire." The sky turned white. For a brief moment, there was no sound, only light. And then, the top of the high command tower disappeared, gone. No explosion, no debris, just erased. The command network of the Empire, vaporized in one perfect strike. But this was not just a weapon. This was a message. Across the galaxy, Empire ships went dark. Some stopped moving. Others surrendered, and many simply turned and joined the humans. On Varney's prime, the people stood in shock. There was no invasion, no bombings, no war, only silence and a transmission. Mara's voice filled the airwaves. "We are from Earth. You tried to erase us, but we survived. We rebuilt. We returned. And we remember everything. But we are not here to conquer. We're here to end the empire that made this galaxy bleed. Join us, or stand in our way. There is no third path. Inside the destroyed command tower, Chancellor Varen sat bleeding under collapsed stone. A broken screen blinked beside him. The face of Admiral Lysa Rain appeared. "It's over," she said. Varen coughed. "You, traitor." Rain shook her head. "No, I just stopped being blind." She stared at him for a long moment. "Goodbye, Chancellor." Then the screen went black. Back in orbit, the Titan hovered in silence. Its power slowly faded. Its glow dimmed inside. Mara stepped back from the console. "It's done." Juno looked up. "What now?" Mara exhaled. "We rebuild." Weeks later, Titan was parked in orbit around Alindra 7, now free and rebuilding. Mara stood at a memorial where Earth's old flag fluttered, side new banners from free planets. People from hundreds of worlds had come. Empire governors had surrendered. Former enemies stood together. A small child tugged Mara's jacket. "Are you really from Earth?" Girl asked. Mara knelt. "Yes." "Was it scary?" Mara smiled. "It was worse than scary. It was silence. It was pain. It was fire. But we never gave up." The girl thought for a moment, then hugged her. "Thank you." At the edge of the crowd, Admiral Rain watched quietly. She had traded her uniform for civilian clothes. No longer an admiral, just a person. Juno stepped beside her. "You staying?" Rain smiled. "I think I've seen enough stars for a lifetime." Juno nodded. "We're building something better." Rain looked at the new banners flying above. "Let's hope we don't forget what it cost to get here." Later, inside the Revenant, Mara stood alone, staring out the window. The stars looked the same, but everything had changed. Earth was back, not as conquerors, but as defenders, protectors of those who had been forgotten. She touched the glass. They tried to erase us, but we became the shadow they feared. We fight for light, far beyond the known systems, in the deep black where signals don't reach. A probe blinked awake. Old, alien, watching, recording, and transmitting. Protocol detected. Earth has returned. Initiate Phase 2. Then the stars went quiet again.